In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a really fun and simple little skill that I discovered by unfortunate necessity and decided to turn it into a repeatable skill that would run on my laptop forever after. And I'm very quickly going to show you what it is. So let's get into the content. So imagine this situation. I've been developing my production AI thing, it's going really well, and I've decided to use Docker in order to fully template and repeat my testing environment. Absolutely fundamental to the whole production AI approach, like repeatable testing that you can do exactly the same way every single time, get results, and set up your AI to fix accordingly. It sounds amazing right up until you realize that suddenly you're creating hundreds of Dockers every single day, and those Docker containers are just filling up your hard drive, and then all of a sudden your entire thing grinds to a halt. In fact, I was using a Windows machine, which I will talk about in another episode. I was just testing stuff out and I ran out of disk space, completely bricked my whole machine. It was like such a mess to fix up. And then I did it to my Mac as well. I didn't brick it because Mac handles that sort of stuff a little bit better. But the point is I filled out my whole hard drive and suddenly I could no longer run Docker because my hard drive was full of like all of these random Docker images everywhere, and that was a mess. So after I breathed a little bit and took a bit of time to put it all back together and get things up and running, I realized that I had just found a fundamental issue with my overall production AI system. That issue was, as powerful as my approach is, and I believe it's the absolute future of software development, I definitely needed to make sure I was taking care of some housekeeping basics, which is making sure I kept my Docker pruned and up to date. This particular skill is the result of that, and honestly, it's not that complicated a skill. There's just a few guardrails in there to make sure it does it safely, and you just run it every 24 hours, so once a day. I normally do it at 2 a.m. in the morning where it's unusual for me to be working, and it just goes through and cleans things up. On a good day, it will clean up 100 to 120 gigabytes of just random Docker images that are lying around, and if I've had a particularly busy day the day before, that might blow out to 200 gigabytes. And it just makes sure that my hard drive is kept nice and clean. So let's get into how it works, and I'll show you that, and then you can absolutely go to my GitHub repo, use it for free in your Codex or Cord, like no dramas there, and all of the links are in the description for you to use. Let's get into it. At a high level, this particular skill is very, very straightforward to understand. Whenever it runs, it goes to your Docker, gets a list of all of the stuff that needs to happen, and then runs the safe delete button to make sure that it's all done. At the end of that, it will then leave you with a list of what is deleted, how much data was saved, and give you an update on your hard drive. So if you get in the morning, it's done its thing, and you've still only got 20 gigabytes left for the day, you don't just kick off a massive development process and then run out of hard drive and the whole thing falls apart. Very, very straightforward. Now, in terms of how it does that safely, well, there's a few guardrails that I've put in there to make this skill work, and I'll quickly outline them for you. The first thing is, I don't just go ahead and run the Docker system prune tac volumes command, right? That's normally what people do in order to clean up their Docker. They just go ahead and prune it. It sounds really straightforward, and for most people that works, but if you're a developer and you're doing a whole bunch of development things, they can quickly run into problems for you. For instance, you don't want to delete active containers or fresh images that have a build kit cache that you might want to reuse. You don't want to delete test databases that you've been using for long-running tests. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to take into account when you're doing it. And if you're setting up an automated system to do this for you, it's not the sort of thing that you want to sit there and babysit every time because, well, that defeats the whole purpose of it in the first place. So what you need to do is actually audit your current Docker setup and your current Docker system every single time you do it, and only delete those things that you define as safe. If you go to this skill, you'll see how I've set that up. You're absolutely welcome when you download it for yourself to edit it so that it works for you. However, I feel like I've come up with a fairly standardized way of doing things. The cool thing about this is that it's standardized against everything else that the production AI system actually uses. So that means that it's only going to delete the stuff that isn't actually necessary based on the testing environment that I've set up. So how does it go about doing that? Well, the first thing it does is runs the CLI command for auditing, and you can see what that is. It then locks your entire Docker, so while this is happening, you can't run PRs, that sort of stuff, and it makes sure that it has everything collated and ready to go in the first instance. It makes sure that no containers that you need are running, or if they are running, it excludes them. It makes sure that images that have been stopped for a certain period of time, so if they've been stopped for longer than 24 hours, then that is in scope. And it treats volumes separately and goes through and audits them separately as well. Then it goes through a specific cleanup audit every single time. First of all, it does a container prune, TAC F. Then it does a network prune, TAC F. Then it does an image prune, TAC A, and then TAC F. It does a Docker builder prune with the same thing. Then it does a volume prune, and finally it does an image prune. At the same time, while it's doing that, it also has some very clearly defined stop states. For instance, if it tries to prune a container several times and it doesn't work, it will just stop because it realizes that there's a problem. That's a bit of a safety gate, because what that means is that if it's working while you're not attending it and something happens, it just knows when it needs to stop. Ultimately, all of that then gets fed into a file that gets saved to disk for you to reference, so it keeps a list of what it deletes, how much space it saved, and why it made any decisions to do that. It's instructed through the skill to take a very risk-averse approach to what it's doing. So if there's any hint that this could cause a problem, it just won't do it and it'll continue on with the stuff that is safe to do. This is really handy because what it means is that every now and again you might need to dive into Docker to do a deeper audit, and that's fine, you can do the babysit part for that. But from a day-to-day operations perspective, it works every time for you. Hopefully that all makes sense, and hopefully you can see why it's so important and so powerful for a Docker-based setup such as what I'm running. Ultimately, whether or not you use it is going to be up to your development environment and how you want to use it, but I feel like if you're using Docker, it's pretty harmless to run, and honestly, it doesn't take that long, maybe 2 or 3 minutes and a few tokens to run every single day, and yet the payoff is huge. 1, you're not going to run out of disk space, and 2, it's just a really good habit to get into. So hopefully that makes sense, hopefully you enjoy it, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you do, and I'll see you on the next episode.